the older homies, the people in there, the people who kind of like represent us, we usually look to them for advice. So one of the older guys, some old Chinese dude, he's like, bro, you should start reading, you know, and working out and kind of get your mind off of things, because he noticed that I was kind of like an overthinker. And so I started reading. I read the Quran in there front to back 3 times, read the Bible in there front to back 2 times. And, you know, it didn't really do anything for me, honestly. So I get out after doing my stretch. I parole out of CRC Norco, and I meet my mom, you
So
know, and
he said he read the Quran 3 times front and back, and the Bible front and back. Shout out to Johnny, man, ex-gang member of the Ching gang from California. As you can see, a lot of gang members went to jail around the 90s. So a lot of the real ones, they disappeared, and then they got a new breed of gangsters, which really don't give a damn about what's, you know, morality. They don't have any morals. They don't have any street codes. It's not the same anymore. Our lifestyle's different. But when he went in, he was still a young kid. So when he read these books, do we know for a fact that he was really well at reading and understanding? He's got a lot of good knowledge, I can tell. He's very smart. I was a Christian myself. But when I was a Christian, I also bumped into a lot of negative things. Having negative friends, you know, doing things. It's like skipping school, going to smoke cigarettes, stealing and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, we did some dumb things when we was younger. But reading is something that is like different from understanding. Like, we can read something, but do we understand it? Can you read something that you never experienced? Like, if you're reading a manual on how to fix a car, no matter what age you are, you still got to have some experience and some likeness into it to understand some of those words that they're speaking about. You need to know definitions of certain words. So when you read a book or a holy book, you got the Bible and the Quran, right? See, me, throughout my 10 years of being in jail, in and out, going in 1 year and then coming back, and then the next year going back again, like, I kept doing different stupid stuff, you know what I'm saying? And due to drug abuse and hanging out with the wrong people, including myself, I was one of those wrong people until I started to study. And the thing is, I didn't get to read the Bible and the Quran instantly in my life. It took me years. Like, I started off as a Christian. When I first read it and I go to church, they only read verses, first of all. We never have a time where we're like, let's read this book from front to back. Surprisingly, no churches do that. They don't have a class where they're going to read it from page 1 to page 2 all the way to the back by the end of the year. They don't do that. But for those who read the Quran, they tell you instantly to read a chapter a day and try to understand it. Repeat the verses if you have to. Don't just skim through the book, which a lot of people do. That was the biggest mistake. Luckily, I was taught how to read the Quran when I finally read it when I was 27 years old. It took me that long to bump into it, you see. And I got at a desperate moment where I was tired of what I was going through and I needed help. And one day I was just like, let me just read this Bible from the front to the back. And that was in jail. So when I watched Johnny, which I used to hang out with gang members too, although I never joined a gang and I ain't never shot nobody. So watching him speak his story, I can relate to it. But the only thing I can't relate to is how he didn't get anything out of Islam, but got something out of Christianity. But everybody's different. Everybody got a different story. We all reach at a certain type of age to learn some type of knowledge. Like, even though Islam existed for so long, I never got the opportunity to study it till 27 years later, after my birth. My parents are not Muslims. They're not even Christians. They just sent me to a school to learn about something positive so I don't get into trouble. But I still got into trouble. So with me, it's like, I don't think Johnny really was taught the right way of reading the Quran. Because when I was reading it, I would take a chapter a day. And I actually seen miracles. And I actually experienced some of those things that I was reading as I was reading it. Like, for example, about the no pork. Me being raised eating a lot of pork, dim sum, you know. I used to eat pig feet when I was a little kid. That's what my parents would give me. Roast pork, barbecue pork. Who doesn't love that, right? Barbecue pork buns. That was something hard to give up. But luckily, I was in jail. And they don't serve a lot of pork. So, but there was times where I was questioning the pork. I was still eating pork rinds, right? Because they had pork rinds for sale at commissary. There was a day where I questioned the pork, like, whatever, I'm gonna eat this. Like, they had the pork and beans, right? And this was when I was aware of what their teaching is. The first thing I did, I didn't even pray, Bismillah. I ate the food and there was a rock, like a piece of rock in my food. And I was like, oh man. I was like, I'm not eating this no more. Like, what the hell was that? So as I was thinking and eating it, I was like, damn, I should have prayed. And then I was like, damn, I shouldn't have been eating pork anyways, because I questioned it recently. So all the things that happened consistently in that time frame. Just like I said about the earthquake. I just read a magazine that came from Japan about Japanese cars. And it was, you know, very fancy. And I got jealous of it. And then the night then, I read about a chapter called Earthquake. And I'm like, okay, earthquake. And then the next morning, there was an earthquake in Japan. Coincidences, stuff like that are miracles and signs to me that God is speaking to you. And what Johnny is talking about, him being in jail, I would like to know more actually from Johnny. Like, how was he taught to read it? Because first of all, you shouldn't even have it in a restroom or a bathroom. You should not keep it where you're, you know, cleaning. You do not keep that book there, which is hard to do because you're in jail, but God understands what you're going through. That's what he says. Everybody's different. They have a different type of treatment due to what they're going through. So then it teaches you to not read the holy book with dirty hands. I've never been taught that at the church, to where it's like, hey, don't touch the Bible until you clean your hands and wash your hands. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, it's got some discipline. You got to do certain things before you touch this book. And it made sense because it's like, oh, you got to clean yourself. You're cleaning yourself pretty much. That's just slowly studying this. And then it was just a piece of paper warning and giving you advice before you read. And then it says, take your time reading it. So I did that daily. And, you know, I really got inspired by it because I got to focus on some of those words daily instead of reading the whole book as fast as I can. Because you know the knowledge, the stuff that you read will go in and out your mind once you get distracted with something else. Instantly you get distracted. So if you don't take your time on one page or one chapter, then you might forget some of the things that you read. You might twist some of the words while you're talking to somebody else about the chapter because you forget a little bit. So now the meaning might change. That's the one thing about the Quran. It never changed the original language. It might have changed a little bit due to the translator writing it down. But that's, you know what I mean, that's how else can you do it? That's why they have different translations. But not different Qurans, not original. Not the original. The original Arabic version cannot be changed because that's how everybody knows if it's been changed or not when it's in Arabic. So if you knew how to read in Arabic, you actually get better descriptions and more examples of like understanding if you actually knew the word itself. So when you learn it in English, it's not that precise, but it's the best as can be for you to understand. So understanding while reading the Quran is such an important such an important value to apply when you're reading. And my reading actually has gotten better because of that. The word Quran, first of all, translated in English, is the recitation. And what you do when you recite, you memorize things, you practice. And that's why the Quran is the only religion that people that practice it memorize the whole book. So even if they threw all the books in the ocean, or they burnt down all the books in the libraries, all the religious books, that's the Bible, the Torah, the Injil, Gospel, Buddhism, you know what I'm saying? Zionism. If you burnt every book in the world, right? The only holy religious book that can come back to existence is if somebody could just be like one person from China, a Muslim from China, a person from Australia, let me get another Muslim from the UK, and another Muslim from America that memorizes the whole Quran, and they can just go all to the same room, right? And they could start reciting the Quran, and they could just to each other confirm that was correct, confirm. Just 5 out of millions of people that memorize the book. See how crazy that miracle is itself? It's all memorized, and they're taught to memorize it since a kid. So no other religion does that. And me knowing that and learning that, I got more attracted to it than I did with Christianity. To tell you the truth, when I was a Christian, I did more horrible things that I've ever done as a Muslim. But becoming a practicing Muslim, now it's like I'm cleaning all the dirt that I've done in the past. And as I'm doing it, it's improving my life better and better and better. So that's what I want to share with y'all, you know what I mean? Shout outs to Johnny. I hope he looks into the Quran again, because I feel like that is really something that he might have to read again, because there's things when I reread it, even after all these years, your experience starts to, the knowledge in the book starts to click with the experience you've been experiencing. So if you don't do nothing and you read the book, you might not catch anything. But when you start doing something, things start happening to you, you start reading it, then you start to relate. Like, all you're hearing is stories at first, but when you start actually experiencing the trouble and you start to, like, no man, in Islam, it's actually a good thing that you're going through bad things, because when bad things happen, that's how people get closer to God. And they start to realize that they're not the ones in control. So, you know what I'm saying? That's just my experience, because I went towards the Quran more than the Bible when I was locked up in RJC. So big blessings to Johnny, though. I see him doing his thing. China Mac interview him, and I just want to give my input in it and share some of that knowledge with y'all, that everybody's different. And that's why I'm putting out my story, because I had my addiction. I had a lot of stuff I'm going through, and I got child support. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm just trying to fix it right now. And that's why I'm telling all these stories, to get heard and to spread the word. So I hope y'all like what y'all heard today. Tell me some of your experiences about the Quran and the Bible, because I can really break it down. Like, I know a lot of stuff between these two, the differences. And there's a lot of verses in the Bible, depending on which Bible you have. The New English Translation, they got missing chapters. You got words in there in the children's Bible that shouldn't be used. That's the same as the adult. I didn't even know they had an adult Bible. They have a children's Bible, but you don't even realize that that's separating from the original Bible, because now it makes it seem like the original Bible is adult version. So you just got a lot of, discrepancies in the Bible, and I feel like the Word of God should not have any discrepancies like the Holy Quran. So we can challenge that with each other if you feel like, I'm wrong. But with all due respect, man, that's just how, look, I'm Chinese, man, raised in America with a family that looks up to Confucius and stuff. They have no religion. I went to Islam. So, I mean, we can all share our story, man. You can share your story too. Shout out to any ex-gang members out there that's trying to change their life. Especially reach out to these young kids, these dumb kids, because ain't nobody trying to teach them, as son kids. Now they're trying to be the father of the father. It's crazy, man. We got to teach our kids how to be stronger and share the right knowledge. Because if you share the wrong knowledge, you can cause them to self-destruct. Sharing the wrong information can cause problems. You can make somebody hate somebody by lying, saying they did this or they did that, manipulate people, and they'll start lying. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fair that you can just make up a lie to somebody, talk to them behind their back, and then make them dislike you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us go through that.